My name is Nick Floyd. I have a long history with Magic the Gathering. I created the Dandan variant. Now I'm creating this. Welcome to Magic Storytime. Today's trivia question is, in the 1990s, Magic the Gathering, though a great game with a robust set of basic rules, was somewhat in flux with wording and rules detail changes. Probably the biggest change to the rules came in 1999 with the release of 6th edition. But some of the earlier rules changes played with the basic card types printed in the type line of the printed cards, which each had unique properties. A couple card types and subtypes were invented to later go away with better rules changes. I.e., originally, creature spells were called summon spells, but that wasn't the only change. Today's trivia question is, what is the only card, a common, reprinted numerous times between 1993 and 1999, that was printed with 3 different card types in its type line over those years? Stay tuned to the end of the video for the answer. This is episode 14, The Beer Garden's Playgroup. This episode is not a single story, but I will save the longest and the best short story for the last. The Beer Garden's Playgroup at the bar at the University of Wyoming Student Union was in existence before I arrived in the Army, but I did have quite an effect on it over time. We attended from September 1997 until December 1998, both semesters of my freshman year and the first semester of my sophomore year. The group did become more serious over time. By the time the winter of '98 rolled around, the Hastings Entertainment Store in town, the only place to buy magic packs, had started to have Friday Night Magic on, well, Friday nights. They didn't have a play area, but they set up small tables in between the aisles of books and movies and collectible knickknacks. Casual Friday Night Magic began the Vanguard variant. Vanguard was a variant format created by Wizards of the Coast that allowed players to play with this oversized special card, which represented a famous Magic character and modified the rules of the game for just that player. Your Vanguard changed your starting hand size, starting life total, and gave you an ability based on the character your Vanguard represented. The Vanguards began in play and couldn't be interacted with. Players play a Vanguard game with a normal constructed deck in the format of choice across their pre-selected Vanguard card. I get most of the Magic Vanguard cards there at Hastings. Of course, I sold mine off in the early 2010s, and today wish I hadn't. By the end of '98, 2 members of the local Magic community had let us know that they were going to open a game store in early '99, and we no longer had any reason to play Magic at Hastings or the Beer Gardens. But I have some good stories from the Beer Gardens, and I'd like to share. I remember one Type 2 deck I built during this time was based on ETB triggers on creatures. I had noticed the trend that Wizards was printing smallish creatures that triggered on entry to do a bunch of interesting things, usually removing another permanent. I put a bunch of them together and made a fun deck. It was 4 colors excluding red because red had gotten shafted for these kinds of creatures. White didn't have much either, but I used some other cards that could recur the creatures. The mana base was kind of sketchy, but it was perfect for the more casual setting of the UW Beer Gardens. I remember the deck fondly. I remember one time we showed up in the Beer Garden on the regular Tuesday night, and the bar must have invited a hired stand-up comedian. I don't remember his name, and he wasn't all that funny. But if we hadn't been there to play Magic, he wouldn't have had much of an audience at all. Of course, he noticed us, as we were most of the people in the bar, and he commented that we were playing some sort of weird card game. Later, I figured that he had written jokes about a bunch of nerds playing a fantasy game in the Wyoming bar where he performed. At the end of his set, he began telling street jokes. I have no idea where the comedian is now, but I hope he had some success and played to audiences that actually came to see it. Now the last Beer Garden story. That is the best of them. The Type 2 deck that I was playing at the time was a Merfolk deck, and it was pretty good. 2 players who had come a couple of times before had shown up this time, in the fall of '98, and I was looking through the trade binder of one of them. And there, on one of the pages, was a Jusum Jin. I had never seen one before, but it had a reputation for being one of the best creatures in Magic. I didn't really want it as a standard player, and it was pretty well played, but I asked him if he would trade it. I guess because it would just be cool to own. He was a black player and was going through my black trade binder at the same time. He found a revised Nightmare that he was somewhat interested in, but he didn't want to trade his Jusum. I tried repeatedly to get a trade, but he wasn't interested in trading it. Finally, when the evening was going to start to wrap up, I asked if he would be willing to play a game of Designated Ante. I proposed a best-of-3 match, in which he would ante the Jusum, and I would ante all the black cards in my trade binder. All of them! I would play my Type 2 Merfolk deck, and he would play his black kitchen table vintage deck. He was a little more intrigued, but didn't bite. Finally, with about an hour to go, I offered the same deal, but as an extra incentive, I offered him the Nightmare just for agreeing to the match. By agreeing, win or lose, he would walk away with the Nightmare. He said yes, and we began the match. Best 2 out of 3, no sideboards. If I lost, I would be out a fifth of my trade binder. But I was confident in my ability as a Magic player and thirsty for some competition with some real stakes. As we played, all the other games of Magic in the bar stopped, and everyone gathered around our table to watch. I won the first game. He won the second, I think with a singular vampire. The third game was the longest of the 3, and it was pretty close. Blue Magic did me good again, and I pulled it off. The crowd was all around us, cheering and clapping me on the back. I won the Jusum, shaking hands with my opponent, giving him my revised Nightmare, and thanking him for agreeing to the duel. It was a memorable Magic moment, to be sure. I hate to admit it, but a few months later, we took a trip to Denver for a local Type 2 tournament, and I sold the Jusum to the store. Today, a Jusum Jin in that condition would be worth $1,300. I didn't get nearly that much for it. Another card I wish I'd kept. There will be more, but those are Magic stories for another time. Today's trivia question is, what is the only card, a common, reprinted numerous times between 93 and 99, that was printed with 3 different card types in the type line over those years? Answer, the common card that was printed with 3 different type lines between 93 and 99 was Dark Ritual. It was originally an Interrupt in Alpha 93 spell type, which basically had its own stack that would resolve first before other spells on the batch resolved, the bats being what the stack was originally called. Counter spells were also interrupts that could remove spells on the other spell batch before the stack would resolve. Then in 1996, the Mirage printing of Dark Ritual became a mana source, which was basically a spell that would provide mana without using the stack. Like tapping land for mana, it couldn't be countered or interacted with on the stack. Several times I had to explain this to players that I was introducing the Dandan deck to, pointing out that Mystical Tutor's reference to mana source does not mean sources of mana, it does not include lands. Finally, 1999's 6th edition, a core set which became the largest set of rules changes probably ever, codified, consolidated, and simplified the Magic rules, and card ordering to be more consistent and less confusing. Dark Ritual became an instant and functioned on the stack as any other instant, as it does today. You can counter Dark Ritual now, but you probably want to wait to save that counter spell for whatever your opponent is using the mana to cast. There was only one other card printed with the mana source card type, that is Dark Ritual's cousin Culling the Weak in Exodus. I played both cards in my Drain to the Last Blood Chief Commander deck, but that's a story for another time. Thank you for joining me for this episode. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.